Welcome, everybody, to another episode of PARAMERICAN RADIO. As always, I'm your host, Chad Calek, here with my my best friend, Mr. Justin Holstein, the Persianite. What's up, Justin?
Oh, you know.
Come on, man. You gotta do better than that shit. I just set it up for you, dude. That was lame as fuck.
What's going on? I'm just like, my mind goes in 1,000 different directions.
Introduce yourself with authority next time, Jesus Christ. And as always, because we like to give the audience what they want, we like to make the ladies happy. Mr. Tender Steve Zilberman, bring that energy up already right now. You're looking tired. Bring it up, Steve. Come on now.
Lots of working, lots of partying.
Yeah, it's not the working, it's the partying. The working's during the day. It's what you do after your work. You guys went out last night, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. Oh man, we have a pretty crazy story. It's filled with murder, suspense. So right when we finished the podcast last night, Justin and I walked out of the building, and we were gonna walk over to your agent Rich's bar.
Yeah.
And we were walking. There's like a backpack in the middle of the sidewalk, and right away you notice that something's off because the backpack is facing, like the top of it is facing towards the street, and there's water like everywhere. And we got closer, and I noticed the water bottle is in like the pocket, right? So we're like walking like in this weird, and then out of the corner of my eye I see like a plaid shirt in like almost in the bushes, like behind this tree, right? It was really weird. And the person was just standing there like this, like with a phone. And right away I got like a creepy vibe, and I said out loud, I said, "Oh, it's that person's backpack." And then so we started walking, and Justin's like, "Dude, what was that?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And Justin's like, "That body on the floor." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, there's a body on the floor." And I didn't even notice the body.
No, there was another dude in plaid sprawled out in the dirt. Like, he just sprawled out in the dirt, and he wasn't moving, or I don't know if he was asleep.
So what was going on?
I don't know, but the thing is, so the way that the backpack was, I feel like whatever happened, that person was thrown hard on the ground because the water bottle was still in the pocket, and it was spilled everywhere. So we didn't call the police, but we went into the building, and we told security. And it was so weird because the security was like, "All right, I'll help. Don't worry." And even when we were walking out of the building, it's a really long hallway, we still didn't hear her like calling anyone. Like this guy could have been dying, and it was so right weird. Outside their building, right? Yeah, it was bizarre, but the weirdest part was the vibes that I was getting from that guy. Like the way he was like staring at us was weird.
Yeah.
Did you guys call the police or the cops or anything?
Well, no, we told the security.
What would you call? Did something looks fishy?
The cops.
I know.
What do you mean? What would you call the cops?
Hey, I saw some guys out here, and it just kind of looked fishy.
It was really fishy, man.
Yeah, I saw some guys out here and a body laying on the ground and a dude standing. That's what I would call and say to what I mean? I wouldn't say they looked fishy.
It was on the property of the building, though. That's why we told the security, and the security is much closer than the police. You know? So who knows how long the police
they're renting fucking nobody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The security here, I could kick every ass down there right now. You know what I mean? These are not.
But there's so many of them, and they all like walk around.
I feel you.
I'm surprised she didn't right away say like, "Hey, whoever's doing like a walk around, check this area."
That's weird.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
I went home last night and I started working on our Patreon, which is going to be up soon, which I'm super excited to get this up. I really think it's going to do great things for us. I'm super excited to get the support from our audience and take this show to new levels, which we'll talk about more in the future. But what I love about doing the show, guys, is that it just gives me a reason to just disconnect from, the everyday grind of life, you know what I mean? And to really kind of go down that rabbit hole and let your mind go and just check into the magic of the world. That's what I love about this show and mysteries. And I ended up staying up way late last night and today. And I have always been fascinated with UFOlogy. We notice I've made 3 documentaries on UFOs. I'm admittedly not a ufologist. I am not some, I know my shit. Like, I'm still on those learning stages like everybody else. And I think that's why our UFO documentaries have done good, because I approach it kind of like the average person would, For those of you that want to see the documentaries that I've done, they're available at aghtelevision.com. There's 3. There's 1992, the USO incident. There's the Air Above O'Hare, and Skywide Lies. Fun stuff. Check it out. I'm not going to go into detail about all of them, but just check it out. The trailers are out there too. But I started digging around last night, and a couple years ago, this documentary SIRIUS came out, which was Dr. Stephen Greer's first major documentary and major release. And at the time, it was making news because it was the largest, or had the biggest budget from crowdsourcing. It was the largest funded film from crowdsourcing. And if you haven't seen, you've seen this, right, Dustin?
I've seen it, yes.
And you have not seen it, right, Steve?
No.
Okay.
I'm familiar with the picture, though.
Yeah, basically what it is, it's like the documentary really kind of, it's more an introduction in the beginning to who Stephen Greer is and why he's one of the leaders in the field, and kind of, it's really kind of like American Ghost Hunter, where it sets up the fact that, like, I didn't choose this, it chose me, you know?
Yeah.
It's very much the same thing for Dr. Greer. It's like he didn't choose this, it chose him. He was an ER, he was a triage doctor. That's what he did. He was a professional before his life went in this crazy direction. But the centerpiece of that whole film is this 6-inch, what's believed to be an alien body. Or they're suggesting this is an alien body. And it was found in Chile, and depending upon who you ask, it's kind of fuzzy as to where it came from. There's different stories, but you know, the whole background or the whole focus of the documentary is, do we finally have an alien that can physically, you know, they can do DNA tests and they could, you know, see if this is in fact an alien body. And there's some really weird things about this 6-inch alien. And I will show you guys, to the viewing audience right now, here is a photo of it. As you can see in this photo, there's like a skeletal structure to it. I think one of the things that has like a rib or two less than human beings have, but there's bones to it that are fully developed. And what I mean by that is, when you're obviously a baby, you don't have fully developed bone structures and joints, and your skull is not completely developed. And this is, and that was one of the fascinating things about this is, once they looked at it right away, the first thing they said is, whatever this is, it's grown. It's not a baby of anything. This is grown. So this thing lived. So the 6-inch thing was walking around, you know what I mean? And right away, that's mind-blowing in itself, because I'm like, I never heard of any 6-inch humans.
So
you know what I mean?
Did Dr. Greer find it, or did...
It was brought to his attention, and he was brought in on it once they had it, because he's an authority on it, and he can get it to reputable people. Like the guy that they give it to do DNA tests is like from Stanford University. He's like one of the leaders in like that field, right?
Right.
So the film ends off, I don't want to say it's a letdown. It's not a letdown, but basically what the guy says at the end is, the DNA tests are rather inconclusive. It's clearly not, you know, we can't just say, oh, this is human. You know what I mean? There were too many questions left over, and he said it would take more tests and more tests that take a long period of time, and that's kind of where it left off. And that's all I knew about it since then. I was like, oh, that's all. So then I'm like, kind of like, oh, well, I wonder if, you know, if anything else has been found like this, or what's new in that world of ufology. And there's a site that I always check out, and I believe it to be kind of a whack job site, but they always have some interesting documentaries. It's called Gaia. And Gaia is, on my Roku TV, I have an app for it. And it's all, you know, it's very, you know, woo-foo, like it's very like space healing and like yoga.
Middle Eastern.
Yeah, very like Middle Eastern in nature and very Eastern medicine and stuff like that. But they always have, you know, some interesting UFO docs and spirituality. That's a better term.
Los Angeles.
Spirituality, yeah.
But I would also say it's more focused on the Middle Eastern philosophy of the fact that we are all interconnected, one consciousness
very
idea, which I
spiritual,
would
right.
give the most credence to right now.
And that's why there's a lot that I don't get on that channel. There's a lot I do get and understand. But I recently, they had big news, and the big news was in, first of all, if you're not familiar with it, Peru is a very important UFO location. I almost did a film on this because I was so fascinated by it. If you had never heard of the Nazca lines, are you familiar with the Nazca lines?
That sounds really cool.
Okay, the Nazca lines are mind-blowing. Thousands and thousands of years ago, you know, with the civilization that lived, out of the blue, for some reason, they don't know why, they started creating these massive pictures in the ground of different things. And you could only see them from the sky, right? Obviously, they couldn't fly thousands of years ago. So they were like, what are they creating? And the way they did it was crazy. If you go out, and they're still there today, there's all these rocks that just sit there. And if you dig deep enough, you come to like almost like a bedrock. So they would, basically move and smooth out all the rocks until they got down to the bedrock, and that would become their lines, and they would draw. And they created some amazing pictures. And the crazy thing was, this wasn't discovered until flight was invented, and then people started flying over Nazca, and they started seeing things like this from the sky.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Oh, wow, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let me show you some more. It gets even crazier.
Is
There's
that
like
a
a
crop
spider
circle?
one.
What is that?
No, and they
How
would just.
high up is that?
Oh, this is in the mountains. Yeah, this is like it's pretty high up, and they've been there for thousands and thousands of years. And here's a really interesting one. It's like a space guy.
Oh, wow.
Like they made like a spaceman that you can see, from the sky. And they just go on and on and on. There's like all these characters that they created. So in that area, what's really crazy is a few months ago, and again, the story's fuzzy about what they got. This is going to blow your guys' fucking mind what I'm about to show you. In some cave in Peru, in this area, they discovered a number of alien mummies. All right, let me show you the pictures of these things. So those of you watching right now, we just cut to the photo so you can see them as well.
So wait. So like, the faces, like,
It's like an alien.
what?
There's the face.
How come it's like there though? Still, isn't
It's mummified.
Oh,
Yeah, the whole thing's a mummy. It's mummified. Okay, it's gonna get weirder. All right. The one thing that it had, if you look on its hands, it has 3 big fingers.
Whoa.
3 big fingers on its hands. That's it. 3 large fingers. Okay?
Oh my God.
So
That's
Gaia was totally behind this, and again, found in this location. All right? This is going down. So Gaia says, this is the real deal. We will open it up to anybody. Come scientists, come on. Let's do DNA tests, all this shit. They threw it right out there. The only thing that made me nervous about it is I'm familiar enough with ufology to know the name Jamie Maussan. And you've probably seen this guy if you've spent any time looking for UFOs. Jamie Maussan is this really famous Mexican ufologist that has been involved in a number of hoaxes. Have you seen him before?
yes.
Yeah, Mexico in general has been involved in a number of hoaxes when it comes to UFOs. But this guy, Jamie Maussan, he has a huge fan base. And, well, listen, I say he's been involved in a number of hoaxes. You know, I always hate saying that and throwing someone under the bus because I don't know every single detail about what he did. But he's known to have been involved in some things that people don't believe in, okay? So when I saw he was involved, I was like, man, I hope this is fucking real. But the fact that Gaia was like, hey, listen, you know, we're all open about this. Bring whoever you want. Well, the first thing they did, and this is very cool, they were like, hey, let's fucking take some x-rays of this thing. That's the real, you know, we find out right away if this thing's fake and bullshit if we just take x-rays of it. So they did, and to their surprise, they found out it's real.
Oh, wow.
Okay? It's totally real. The skeletal structure, the skull, all of it is bizarro. It's real as far as the fact that it's a body. And what's even weirder is they didn't just find one, they found a number of them.
Oh, wow.
Which they've done x-rays on, okay? And
it's like ET, dude.
Yeah, it does. Everyone started getting super excited about it. So they went and did DNA tests, and everyone was like, oh my God, we're going to do DNA, it's going to prove it, it's going to prove it, it's going to prove it. While those DNA tests were out, let's go back to the little 6-inch guy. The story gets super weird. So that comes back, and it is believed to be human. The DNA test said it was 91% human. They couldn't confirm anything beyond that, but it does beg the question, well, what's the other 9%? And they said, well, we don't know, but anything past, like, you know, this percentage, I guess, we would call it human. So we would say that this thing is human. Now, well, as it turns out, after doing research, Ripley's, believe it or not, years ago, had another body similar to that one. I will show it to you. It was called Attaboy, which is so weird because this one was called, the one in SIRIUS is called Atta. And it was found that because that's the desert in which it was found. And the Ripley's, believe it or not, they didn't present it as an alien, okay? Ripley's presented it, they said that it's a mummified fetus, all right? So when you put them side by side, there's some similarities to them, obviously, right? And if you're watching this or listening right now, we're showing these photos as we talk about it. Well, it turns out after comparing the two that there is a dramatic difference. This is a fetus, meaning it was an aborted fetus that there was a doctor known for specific, you know the shrunken heads
right.
back in the day that they did through the whole body. But in order to shrink the whole body, you have to remove like the bones to do it. This one was totally different. This was a full-grown body, right? So while they look similar and they were taken from the same area, they believe that this one is not the same as this. But what's kind of funny, if you start looking at the head structure and everything, it's very different. This one's very different than that one, actually. They just, but this was, the Ripley's one was acknowledged to have never lived, right? This was a person that was totally aborted, and this was not, okay? But the strange thing was the Ripley's one was also found in that same area. The story was also very shady as to where it came from. You know, and so they think like, you know, what is going on in that area? Regardless, these small little figures keep coming out of there, and they don't know what it is. But at 91% human, they basically said it's a human body, so it's not an alien. Well, the guys came back and said, no. Listen, that has a human DNA code, all right? That doesn't mean that it's human like we're human. You know what I mean? That means that 91% of the genetic is what it is.
Well, I mean, almost everything on this planet is almost identical.
Apes are really close.
Right.
As far as, yeah.
Right. So they're saying, like, yeah, this we get that it reaches the criteria to say it's human, but let's look at it. You know any other 6-inch human beings walking around right now? Because they determined that, that's the reason I brought the Ripley thing, is they determined that one was shrunken, and they believe they know the doctor who did it as well. The other one, they do not believe it was shrunken, because the process of shrinking things, you have to remove the bones from it to do it. So they're like, no, this one was not shrunken. This was a total different entity than what that was. So there were a group of people that said, listen, what is to say that if we have alien life that fostered us, that their DNA code wouldn't be close enough that it appeared to be human, right? So back to the mummies of them. So they took their DNA, and oddly enough, it came back as completely human. But what makes no sense is they all agree that the skeletal structure, all this stuff is authentic. So why does this alien-looking head-eye stuff, why does it appear to be human? The reason I'm bringing this up is this is a gold mine for ancient astronaut theorists who say, no, we are the children of these. That if we were, in fact, to meet aliens, at least the father of our race, they would be human. We could communicate with them. You know what I mean?
This is the idea of the Sumerians that have the records of the Anunnaki.
That's where I'm going with this. This suggests that the idea that a hybrid race was made to mine this world and to work for them, we would have to be of them, and we'd have to be able to communicate with them, and they would have a different, you know what I mean? This totally makes sense that would be the case. But if that were the case, then mankind would have actually started millions of years ago. Right now, they believe that it's accepted that mankind is about 14,500 years old by scientific terms. And the only reason it's 14,500 is before that it was 9,000, and that was due to like different structures that they found. But Gobekli Tepe in Turkey was the underground. For those of you watching, here's a picture of Gobekli Tepe. This was, they previously believed man was 5,000 years old, then 7, then 9, and it was based upon structures they were finding, right? Well, and then Gobekli Tepe came out and threw a wrench in everything. At the time period that this was made, right? They believed that Neanderthals, like man at that point, were still, like beating shit with stones, couldn't write, didn't have the wheel, were still, munching raw meat, but yet this comes out in Gobekli Tepe. which is very, very precise artwork carved into walls that suggests, no, wait a minute, you got it way fucking off, right?
So what's the timeline of that?
So this is 14,500 years old.
Oh, well,
okay? Now, they think that only 5% of this has been unearthed, which is crazy. It's a massive, massive, massive structure that they're still unearthing right now.
Did they have records of Indians, like, on in stuff, like, 12 or 15,000 years ago on this hemisphere and stuff? And if you send your Blood of the Human Genome Project, they trace us as human beings back about 250,000 years, and that's where.
Well, no, according to everything around Gobekli Tepe, that the earliest reports of walking man were about 14,500 years old, according to what I read in this, and I watched a documentary about it too. But it doesn't matter if say it was 100,000, say it was 200,000 years old. I'll tell you why none of it fucking matters. Because in the Rhine River, these German archaeologists just discovered what appear to be human teeth, and it's been confirmed that they are. The testing has all come back that go back 9 million years. 9 million years. And what's really weird is that they're slightly modified, and they're not been modified, but they're slightly different from our teeth, but they fit in right around what they believe would be the pre-ancestor to Lucy, which would be the missing link, right, between, if you believe in evolution, and when the apes started walking upright. So they think that this is actually the earliest sign of bipedal man walking around, which would date it back 9 million years. If that's the case, that rewrites everything in history, that mankind were in fact walking around back then, right? So what's crazy about all these findings is they're all pointing towards the fact that ancient astronaut theory seems to make the most sense. That aliens could very much have our DNA, or at least enough of it, 91% of it, you know what I mean? That these creatures are in fact, that if they returned here, we could speak to them, we could talk with them, they wouldn't in fact be grays or anything like that. Now, obviously, guys like Dr. Greer and even Tom DeLonge, Paul Hellyer, they all believe multiple species are living and visiting this planet, which could very well be the case. But what got me so excited about this is, if disclosure happens, how fucking cool would it be if, say, an alien ship landed and someone looking similar to us walked out and said, "How you doing, man?" Yeah. And you could have conversation with them, and you'd be like, whoa, you know what I mean?
Come out and slap hands with you. What's up,
That
bro?
would be amazing, you know what I mean? That would be totally amazing.
I believe a lot, man, in intuition, and if things make sense, that's when I start following that line of thinking, you know? So somebody else could sit there and go, well, Tom Cruise's religion is crazy, or this person, and I would go, let me tell you what my general principled belief is that, pretty much, that we are a creation of another race. That you can look at the Sumerian story, that they basically came here. They were called the Anunnaki. They bred what were close to apes on Earth because they had the right skeletal structure, the right bacterial composition to live in the
and we mined the planet for them, right? Resources,
and they just made them intelligent apes, So that was the start of actually the human race, right?
Which is why we are still by nature a violent civilization. Because what's crazy is you look at us, right? And the one question you would ask if you're an outside species looking down would be, why so fucking violent? Why is it in our nature to make shit that destroys shit? Whether it be guns, nuclear bombs, we naturally... Look, why do we watch the UFC? Let's get really down to it. There's a part of us that loves that shit, that loves violence. We just want to see two men, like you said, you mentioned when you said it's like Rome. We're living in Rome. Yeah. You said that to me. I watch the UFC. Why? Because there's a part of me that likes fucking violence. I want to see two dudes go in there and beat each other to death. And that is such a... Look at the way... You ever watched... I watched a documentary. What's the girl that lives with the monkeys?
Jane Goodall.
I watched her documentary, and it was amazing how she figured out how they interact, how they communicate, and she kept saying what's fascinating about them, they're a shadow of us. We act the same way they do, slightly more intelligent. Like they work the same way in the slightly jealousy was a big deal. If one ape, mated with another and they got close, they would lose their fucking mind and attack them and kill them, for it. When one was a leader of it, there was always 2 to 3 that were plotting to take over the leadership role of that, and they would do it by killing them. And once they were leaders, you would see it. They would sit around and all the other monkeys would do shit for them, pick at them, clean them, eat food for them like crazy.
This is weird. This is an out there thought, which I have a lot of. But, oftentimes you can learn a lot by viewing something from the outside. Like if you watch another couple, you can kind of see what their problem is right away because you're not in it. You know what I mean? So imagine these grays, the way they look and everything else. Imagine if we somehow looked at their planet and we saw these grays sitting around and they were all like going like this while 2 grays were beating the hell out of each other. Think how odd that would seem.
Right.
Like how
and if they all got together to watch one kill the other and they applauded it and they were like, yeah, you know what I mean? That's what's so weird. I mean, it's totally fucking weird.
But we adopt it and accept it. It's just like normal for us.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we're not that much smarter than apes, man. I mean, you can practically. They've shown apes can learn language and mathematics, and there's things they can do. Like, it's crazy. And like the difference between us and most animals is a higher functioning brain and an opposable fucking thumb. You know what I mean? And that allows us to do all kinds of other things. It's just crazy when I was watching that documentary because they really did act in every way that we do. There is always somebody who wanted to be the king of the hill. There was those who were accepted that they were never going to be, and they were like worker apes, basically, and they did the bullshit around the camp. There were those that were always beat on and made fun of and always were, hid from the group, but would just go there enough to eat and like, can I have a crumb, Like
high school.
The world like that. Right, exactly. And I'm like watching this going, fuck, we're not that different from them. You know what I mean? So when I start seeing this, like, the fact that this came back, that the guy Mummies as human DNA, that's far more fascinating to me. Because I'm like, look, it's got 3 fingers that are jutting, you know what I mean? Its head's long and this, its skeletal structure is weird. It's mummified, what the fuck? Like that is so crazy. Same thing with the 6-inch thing. Oh, it's 91% human. Well, guys, I'm sorry. There isn't like 3-fingered monsters walking around next to 6-inch human beings right now. So this is mind-blowing shit, But it really made sense to me because we were talking this the other day. I did a documentary called, for fans of my stuff, it is still today probably right up there with, AGH or Blood Red Sky is Skyward Lights, the one about the moon. I did a documentary about the moon being a satellite, being a spaceship. And the thing about it that I didn't include in that documentary that I would if I redid it today is right about the earliest scripture of legend and lore that addresses the moon is the arrival of the moon, in which the Zulu lore and legend claim that 2 brothers came and the brothers were in the moon. And they brought the moon here, and that was the Anunnaki. That went on to later popular. And right at this time period, if you look at other religions, is when the Great Flood happened. Now, the flood's important because it's mentioned in multiple doctrines. The flood is mentioned in multiple doctrines. People believe the flood really happened. Obviously, God didn't go at the ram, but something happened where the world became flooded, right? Well, if you take the moon, you see the moon has control of the tides, right? High and low. If you just simply move the moon some direction, it would slosh water and pull oceans all over this fucking planet. You could drown the living shit out of everything here by just moving the moon. So whoever controlled that moon controlled the world. So that would be a way, a source of fear to the race that was created, and were the people that, you know what I mean? Like, listen, I control this world. I move this moon, I could fucking crush this thing. And it's something you could leave in the sky that's forever a reminder of who's really running shit, you know what I mean? There's just like big theories. I start thinking about this stuff, but it's just, it all starts making crazy amounts of sense that we are a creation, that we are totally a creation. But what also starts even going further in this, and I know I'm down the fucking hole right now, but if we are a race, just like that race, and there's millions of races out there in the galaxy, like all races, we're going to have our natural enemies. You know, like when you go in the woods, you know, the fox to the rabbit. You know what I mean? There's like natural enemies that we have. So what alien races are our enemies, and will our parents protect us? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like really
yeah.
deep thoughts. Of
Find
like,
out
you know,
next time on the episode.
yeah, right. No, it's just really, really cool stuff, man. And I don't know. I mean, like, what do you guys think about all this stuff?
You know, on the moon stuff. Okay, like earlier, I was looking up and trying to find some different science ideas conspiracy, whatever.
Right.
And it came upon this U.S. defense physicist spills the beans on what's really happening on the moon.
Yeah.
And it basically quotes this. First, it goes into some John Podesta stuff and these related emails. Mm-hmm. But then it talks with this Brandenburg guy. It's a doctor. One second. It's Dr. John Brandenburg. He's a PhD and a physicist. He worked on a bunch of NASA stuff. He was the principal inventor of the MET microwave electrothermal plasma thruster that's used in space propulsion. He's got a ton of different, elements he's been working on with this. His quote is. So they basically were going up there to take photos to try to prove or disprove if somebody or someone was building moon bases.
This is the Clementine mission, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
They just mapped the surface of the moon, right?
Yeah.
Through a satellite, Clementine.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that was Clinton era.
So Brandenburg says, of all the pictures I've seen from the moon that show possible structures, the most impressive is a picture of a mile-wide rectilinear structure. This looked unmistakably artificial, and it should not be there. As someone in the space defense community, I look on any such structure on the moon with great concern because it isn't ours. There's no way we could have built such a thing. It means someone else is up there. And his second quote is, we were aware there was a possibility of an unknown presence, possibly alien extraterrestrial near Earth. There I am, sitting in a room of retired Army and Air Force generals and a few admirals, and we're watching what looks like a firefight in space. The most senior general there turned to me and said, "Where do you think they're from?"
I think I know this. Supply lines, right?
And I said, I don't know. I've heard they're from 40 light years away.
And he said long supply lines, right? Isn't that the end of it?
Maybe, but that was just the end of that quote. I don't see that there.
The reason this general asked him that, I've heard this before.
Yeah.
He said 40 light years away. He said the general paused and went, long supply lines. Because they'd have to cut off the supply lines if it went to war. And he was already thinking about that. You know what I mean? Yeah, what's crazy about the moon is multiple people have come forward. When there's those NASA infos that are grayed out. Have you seen those? That things have been sponged up? The people that have written those, Justin, that did that have come forward. Dr. Greer's had them and interviewed them, and they're like, yeah, our job was to... Well, I talk about it in Skywide Lies. Yeah, that guy came forward and said there was bases, ships, towers, satellites that and basically he went. This gentleman went to his superior and said, "Is this what I think this is?" And his superior was like, "Yes, it is. You don't know what it is. You don't know. You know what I mean? Forget about it. Blotch it out." You know what I mean? So it's crazy if you think about the moon doesn't make sense in so many ways. And we can go on about this forever. I would just urge you guys to watch Skywide Lies. The moon doesn't make any sense. And what's even weirder is if we did, although I don't believe we made it anywhere near the moon on Apollo 11, I believe that we made it to the moon when we, quote, stopped going. Because that's when we were actually doing stuff.
Yeah.
And it's all top secret at that point.
Well, I've never verified all this stuff. And I mean, obviously, nobody really publicly anyway has, to my knowledge, because if they had, we'd have some crazy information right now that we'd be talking about. But I'd heard that there's a lot of different countries that have moon bases. It isn't just the United States.
I've heard this too. I've heard they're on the dark side of the moon.
Yeah, they're on the dark side. They basically quadrant where you can be. It's almost like you can't fly over Russia airspace or something like that, right? It's the same kind of concept where.
Well, this guy, there's documents out, government documents right now, and obviously no one from the government will verify it. But what it is a service order for supplies and materials needed to build George W. Bush, like another part of our moon base. And there's documents that are out that are supply orders. You know what I mean? Of what we need, what they're buying, what they're spending, and the amount of money they're going to spend on it. And supposedly, just as recently as George Bush, we were building onto our moon base out there that they say is, again, on the dark side of the moon. It makes total sense, which brings me to my next point I want to talk about before we go to break. But what's really interesting is when they went to the moon, and they finally did go, there's all kinds of reports. You could hear the audio of them talking to each other and saying, do you see that out there on the ridge? You know, they're looking at us right now. They're radioing back to Houston going, you know, we supposed to have friendlies up here? Yeah, they're looking at us right now. And then you could hear them saying, click to the other channel, you know, so they could talk off it. So when they went up there, they knew, when they finally made it, they knew shit was there. You know, they knew it was. But what's really interesting to me, and this blew my mind, is one of the things that they found, you guys have probably seen this, pyramids. They found pyramids that were on the moon, right? And it's like, holy shit, why are pyramids on the moon? What is the thing with pyramids everywhere anyways? Well, recently, and this was just like a matter of weeks ago, there was this big Google Earth thing that came out where they were fishing around, or this guy was going around looking through Google Earth. And Google Earth also shows, like on the ocean, it shows the floor of the ocean and stuff.
Yeah.
They found, like, off the coast of Florida, they found 2 pyramids, which people have gone out to now, and then went swimming down and checking out to say, yeah, we do believe that this is here. They've mapped it. It was like, holy shit. So this is, like, out off the coast of Florida, out in the middle of nowhere. And obviously, we talked about this before, and this has been verified in Antarctica. We know that there's 2 pyramids in Antarctica as well. They recently found with photos from the Mars rovers. So there's a shot of it from a distance, and this is crazy. Like, look how detailed this is when they blow it up. This is an actual photo of a pyramid on Mars.
Huh.
You know,
what this tells you is that, think how huge this is. Not only, like, was, you know, Mars populated, but the same species that was planting these things around the Earth.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's mind-blowing.
That same guy, Dr. John Brandenburger, also had this whole thing that he'd studied the isotopes from Mars, and because of the lay of the land and everything, had come up with the conclusion that there had been nuclear war on Mars at one point.
Yeah.
And which people are like, okay, this guy's crazy. You know?
I haven't read the details about that, but I did read a story about how, from the lay of the land, also from samples of what the dust is and stuff like that, that they believe, there was once a nuclear war there. There's also, I mean, if you want to go deep into it, the pictures aren't well enough to verify, but there are tons of photos from the Mars rovers that absolutely look like machinery blown to shit. All this stuff, to me, man, the reason I'm just so excited about it is I really had a chance to go deep down the UFO rabbit hole the last few days. And it's so exciting when you stop and think of all the space exploration stuff that's going on right now. It just, in our lifetime, things are about to get real fucking interesting, dude. Real fucking interesting.
Yeah, it's hard to quantify. Like, for instance, those photos of the rocks on the moon or whatever they look like.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just me. When I see stuff like that, it's a little bit of a letdown, and I wonder if it's just there to if it's being shown to give us enough doubt. You know what I mean? Like, oh, maybe there's something there, but I don't know. It looks like it isn't. Because if there actually are bases, legitimately, right? And if you could see those, it would be non-mistakable, right, of what you're seeing. It wouldn't look like.
But it is a non-mistakable on the moon. I mean, have you seen some of the pictures from the moon? I mean, it's so fucking detailed. I mean, it's crazy.
You're talking about those rock-looking objects?
Oh, not the rabbit. No, the moon. Well, I used them in Skywide Lies, the buildings and structures and that are on the moon are just incredible.
And they, maybe I'm not recalling the ones that seem definitive, because to me, it looked very suspicious, but again, if you saw the details of electronics and whatever, you know what I mean, of a photo of a base, that would be definitive now. It wouldn't be, it looks like, for instance, that pyramid that almost looks like maybe it possibly could have formed. That's why I was wondering if there's any way of naturally a pyramid could form on Earth, you know what I mean?
Like that. That's a picture of a structure on the moon. That is a real photo of something on the moon. That straight up looks like a tower or some kind of something that's coming up out of the ground.
Right.
And you know what I mean? Like straight up out of the ground and built. Yeah. And I've seen that photo in a number of documentaries. That this is one of the big telltale sign ones, because you can see it so clearly in the way the light hits it and everything. Now, I mean, I know what you're saying. It's not so detailed that it looks like the strip mall down the street.
Well,
you know what I mean? Where you're like,
better.
whoa.
That one's.
But I'm saying that there are photos out there that are crystal goddamn clear to the point where you're like, whoa, that's not natural. You know what I mean? But the thing at this point, it's like, when I look at these pictures, the thing that the JFK dump did for me is, like I said, when you look at this Bruder film, everything that it reasonably seems to be, it is. So when I look at these photos now, I'm just like, don't tell me bullshit, government. Everything it seems to be is going to be what the fuck it is when you finally tell us the truth in 50 years from now. You know, it's like, that's natural. No, it's not. Doesn't appear anywhere in our world like that. That's not natural. Don't tell me that bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's, I think, the most important thing about the JFK dump is it just, like I said, reaffirm that trust your instincts. You're not stupid. You know what I mean? Things they are what they are. You know, it's just kind of like Tower 7. You know, no, dude, it could have been a natural way. The fire could, no, it was a fucking demolition. All right.
Looking like a Three Stooges movie covered in plastic, I swear to God. But you get a good thing, that's the good shit. Then we went back there. Whoa!
Don't tell me anything else. I trust my eyes, my brain. I see it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's absurd that you're saying it's not.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's what made Sherlock Holmes so good, because he said whatever appears to be, no matter how strange. That's
right. The most likely answer is the answer to the problem. Right. You know, and totally. That's why, you know, when I did the 9/11 documentary, I didn't have a preconceived idea of what happened. I just went backwards and said, what could make all this work? What could make all this work?
Yeah.
And if our own guys turned against us, when I put that equation in, now it at least all worked. That doesn't mean I got it all right. That means that worked. Right. You know? So it's that's what I think is fun about this stuff is now I look at that and it's like it is what it is. You know, it makes total sense. And I'm so tired of seeing things that are obvious and then having the government throw their bullshit spin on it and tell you that you're crazy for pointing out the obvious. You know, it's just like 9/11 when they're saying, you know, the towers fell because the steel was melted. If you know anything about how they were constructed, they're just massive iron poles that went up to make sure that could never happen. No matter what. They built it to withstand those. So when you go, well, it just got so hot it melted the steel. Well, even if it melted the steel, it would have felt like this.
Right.
You know what I mean? It would have just went, you know, it wouldn't.
There were four giant metal columns.
Made of hundreds of poles. Right. Making up those columns. It's stupid. And so it's just like when I look at this stuff, it's like, that looks like a base of the moon, because it is. Now, is it ours? We don't know. You know what I mean? And we don't know, you know? It's just, we were talking about earlier, too, about, like, the moon, they're like, oh, well, these shadows cross because of earth shine and moonshine. You work in lighting every day, Justin. You know what I mean? It's like when I look at something and, you know, no matter where I'm at, you know, whichever fucking direction the light is coming from, the shadow goes the other way, you know? And if it's going different ways, there's different goddamn sorts of light that should line up. You know what I mean? And if it's earth shine, then that would line up somewhere. And whichever's brighter would fucking clog out the other ones. So when, you know, the earth is, you know, behind me and, you know, supposedly the sun is to my right and shadows are going this way, that's bullshit. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. There's so many things that about the moon and the initial landings that make absolutely no sense, and they keep telling you that you're stupid if you believe that.
A lot of these conspiracy, all this stuff, there's going to be different types of listeners for our even show right now, right? Some people have already researched all of this. They've already breached that gap of being woken or whatever,
Woke as fuck.
But then you also have other people. I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember when we were first looking at 9/11 and stuff, and it was Penny's, what was the documentary that basically covered
Loose
it?
Change.
Oh, yeah, Loose Change, man. Yeah, dope as fuck.
Loose Change, and they really made an amazing case for those two young guys that did it.
Yeah.
And, it took a long time to absorb.
Dude, they did so many revisions of that.
Yeah.
By the time they got to Final Cut, what they call Loose Change Final Cut, they had been through, I'm not even shitting, I think like 8 revisions because more information kept coming. Like I said, where do you stop? You know what I mean?
On that note, dude, it was amazing when they were debating those popular science guys. Those old, experienced popular science guys, 2 dudes your age or younger, schooling them. It was. I was astounded, thinking, how is this possible, man?
Dylan Avery, badass. You know what I mean? And what was cool about that again is they just looked at it like, hey, listen, guys, I'm going to go on my 5 senses here, okay? And this is bullshit, And I love that about it. I love that about it is it's just common sense reasoning. So what I would say to everybody out there is when I say that about the moon, I'm not a full denier. I mean, let me be clear. I believe we went. I totally believe we went. But I believe if you want to know when we went and when we kept going, when we went silent about it. Think about it. Before we go, we want everybody to believe we're going. Right? Because we're going to win the Cold War. We're out in front. We're there. We faked it. The second we get there and now are really there and have real work to do, that's when it goes dark. If you wonder, why did we, do 6 moon missions and then we just haven't been back since '69? Oh, come the fuck on. Of course we have. They don't want you to know what's going on. So they say we didn't go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That makes total sense, listen, when you look at those early footage, it's stupid. I mean, look at the limb. That hunk of shit is made out of coat hangers and fucking aluminum foil, bro, with the USA things taped on it. It's fucking stupid. That hunk of shit is what they. It's funny. I'm going to put a photo up right now. Everybody look at this hunk of fuck and tell me that you would get in that thing and go, let's go to the moon. It's stupid. It's just, it's like dumb stupid, So, anyways, we're going to take a break here, but I just, last thought, Steve, what do you think? Is ancient astronaut theory, are we on the right path here, you think?
See, I have to see a timeline of events because so you say they found the tooth that was 9 million years old,
that
right?
was recently 9 million years old.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's around the time where it would be a humanoid or an alien, right?
Basically, they're saying that's a time where it would be akin to Lucy, which is the missing link, which is that period when apes went and stood up and started. That's what we don't have yet in the genetic genome code. They don't have Lucy, the one that stood up. Right. So they kind of jump from this to just kind of walking around. You know what I mean?
Right. So my question is, the moon was created, or the moon was there anyway, way before then. So did whoever put the moon there, he just waited, or they just waited for millions and millions and millions of years?
See, I don't believe that we're evolved from apes. I think we were created from apes, which is a different animal.
Right.
Okay? If we were evolved from apes, why aren't apes gone? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why did they stop in evolution?
I think because there's a jump, the gap in this whole Lucy thing. It's because that human beings were a genetic hybrid. I mean, we were created. It didn't.
That's what I mean. It wasn't evolution. Right.
Yeah. No, but I mean more of if the moon was there as a satellite to control us, why did they put it there so long ago and wait hundreds of millions of years or billions of years until the first humanoid was created? Because
if we fuck up too bad on Earth right now, you know what they can do? Move it a little bit, start over.
And not only that,
you know what I mean?
Time is time is like that is relative to us because we live in 100-year increments max, roughly, you know, and if you believe what's basically reported by a lot of people that have encountered or had interface with Greys, or that they've lived hundreds of thousands of years longer, that you know, and if you believe, again, like Paul Helly or whatever, there's multiple races that are around. That I guess point being that time is something that we see as a linear path, right?
Right. Well, it's relative.
Right, but it's not only is it relative, but what if they could circumnavigate time?
Okay, in regards to that, Steve, let's not forget we've attacked the moon.
Right. Yeah.
Our government shot warheads into the moon.
Well, I'm not.
You know
I'm not saying that I don't believe it's a satellite. I mean, the most interesting thing is if you hold up the thermometer to moonlight, it's colder than around.
Did you look that up? Did you watch the videos or try it?
No, I didn't.
Do it. It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And what we're talking about, everybody, is if you believe in this my skywide lies theory, well, I don't want to say my theory. I have a version of it from what I think. Is the belief that the moon is a satellite. But that belief is also that it's self-illuminating, meaning that it is not the reflection of the sun off of it. And the reason being, if the sun were to hit it and reflect back, there would be heat, right? If you hold a thermometer, an outdoor thermometer, anybody out there listening can do this. Hold an outdoor thermometer on a clear night when the moon's out, hold an outdoor thermometer up in front of the moon in the moonlight, and the temperature will start lowering. Put it in shade, and it will start increasing. It should increase. Moonlight should make things warmer, and it doesn't.
But then how would you account for the fact that if you take some of those shots of the moon with those raised, whatever it be, pyramid type things or anything, there's always a shadow cast?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the only photos that I've ever seen of anybody being on the moon are from our government doing what they've
the sun would still be hitting the moon.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The thing is, I just don't think that the moonlight. I just don't think it's that bright. Because aren't there other things out in this? Doesn't the sunlight hit everything in our solar system? Like, why is what I mean? It's like, why is that the only thing that's like lit up by? Sun, because that's like, I mean, maybe the answer is simple because that's what's close to us.
No, I mean, right? All the other planets you can see is the same situation. At times you can see Mars, at times you can see, because sunlight's hitting them.
Or maybe you can't. I'm a dumb when it comes to astronomy or anything like that. What I am saying is that I don't believe that sunlight is what's reflecting off the moon. Sunlight could even be hitting the moon and actually making it bright, but it's not making its way back down here, because the bottom line is, if it's sunlight that's hitting it, it would get warmer, and it doesn't. And anybody can test this. It doesn't get warmer, and that's a mind fuck, as to why it doesn't. So what would make sense, and I'm going back to the Sherlock Holmes thing. What would make sense is that it's self-illuminating. Like you were talking about, LEDs don't create heat.
Right.
So if it was some form of LED light that is, in stages, like lighting up, which would give people a sense of time, right? You can tell time by the cycles of the moon. It's like the moon dial instead of the sundial, you know what I mean? It can tell you time. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I have all the answers to all of it, but what I'm simply saying is, what would make sense is that if the moon is self-illuminating, then it would make sense by what the properties are of it. Like when you hold a thermometer up and temperature goes down and goes up. What's also weird? The moon also appears to be translucent. Like, have you ever seen the photos where we can look at the moon at night and the footage is up there and you can see stars through the moon, right through it? Yeah, when we take a break here, I'll show you guys that footage. And we'll talk about when we come back after break. But I'll show you the footage. Yeah, you can see the moon and it's transparent. You can see things through it, which is really weird. So, anyways, guys, I know we're already going deep again, but this is good stuff. Hang with us a little bit more. When we come back, we'll get into it. I'm going to go show these guys some of the footage of the moon being transparent, and we will be right back with Steve, who's going to take us even further down the rabbit hole. We're going to see what's going on in the world. Hang with us. We'll be right back.
PARAMERICAN Radio will be right back after this commercial break with even more dope-ass shit.
6 hours ago, a guy that I befriended about a year ago named Craig Powell sent me several pieces of film of events, strange things that he captured. The reason I'm so tired right now is because I have watched this footage for 6 hours straight. Either Craig and his team have pulled off one of the most advanced, complex hoaxes that the paranormal field has ever known, or the footage that I'm looking at. If this footage is real, and I will find out if it is, then Craig has definitively proven that ghosts exist.
You believe in ghosts?
I believe that there is strange stuff out there. Whether you want to call it a ghost, a spirit, I don't know what they are. That's what we're trying to figure out.
So whether you believe it or you're a skeptic, when spooky things happen, who are you going to call? This guy, Ghost Hunter Craig Powell from Western Sydney Paranormal Research. G'day, Craig.
On February 22nd, 2013, the Australian government emails civilian Craig Powell with an unusual request.
So you're out there debunking ghost claims?
Well, we try to. We always look for a rational explanation before we look into the paranormal stuff.
Due to countless ghost sightings reported on the government-owned grounds of Sydney Harbour's Cockatoo Island, Powell was offered unlimited, around-the-clock access to the island in order to conduct an extensive paranormal investigation to determine if past claims of paranormal activity could be discounted or substantiated.
I need to be in that situation. I need to be there. I need to know the surrounding environment. What we need to do is we need to be on site and we need to have a look at it properly for ourselves.
Interested in the paranormal claims and aware of Cockatoo Island's dark past as a convict prison, Powell accepted the offer to lead his team in what would become the first paranormal investigation in history to be officially sanctioned by the Australian government.
What we're trying to do is figure out what it is, why it's happening, how it happens, why some people see it, why some people don't see it.
The WSPR investigation would last nearly 2 years, in which the activity experienced and the evidence captured would change the lives of all involved forever. As Powell and his team were unaware from the onset of the investigation that someone, something, an entity was waiting for them.
Same things, but it was at exactly the same time. Oh, fuck! Jesus Christ!
An entity that allowed its voice to be heard. An entity that would reveal its own name. An entity that on countless occasions allowed its unique abilities to be filmed.
Oh, Jesus!
Thanks, sir. That was
Awesome. That was really bright.
There were no shadows. It didn't cast shadows when it flashed. It's one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen with my own eyes.
And before the investigation came to a close, this entity did something completely unexpected. From only feet in front of a recording camera, the entity decided to show Craig and his team exactly what a ghost really looks like.
Thanks, sir. I asked him to do something there.
So the camera was actually sitting in this far corner, and just out through the door there is where the surf footage came from.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
What did you experience at Cockatoo Island?
I witnessed the lights.
You witnessed the lights?
Yes.
Okay, so you're
From the start.
telling me that you and a bunch of people sat in a room with no power, and
That's
the
correct.
room was lighting up?
Yes.
Okay. So essentially when you say that I feel like I had a connection, you're talking about like you feel like you met a spirit out there and you formed a bond of some kind.
Yes.
Okay. You do understand this sounds fucking crazy.
To everybody else, I don't really care.
Do you believe this is a ghost doing this?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have zero fraction of doubt in your mind.
Yeah.
How long have you been in the team?
About 5 years.
So you know these guys well.
Yeah, I know them really well. Too well.
No chance anybody on your team faked it?
If I ever believe that one of our team members faked it, I'll throw him off the fucking balcony.
Really?
Nah, why would we go out and do that?
Are you guys paid?
No.
Would you guys like to get paid?
Well, it'd be nice.
Sure. There's just so many reasons to hoax. There's so many reasons to hoax.
Give me a good one.
Make your life better.
Why?
It could bring fame, fortune.
And look, and it could, but, you know, there's been times where our kids have missed out on stuff because we've put money in towards Whisper. We can't go on holidays because we've got
all great reasons to hoax.
No, but this just goes to, yeah, it could be, but, you know, we all have our paid jobs and then there's the love job.
What do you think's on that film?
I think it's the spirit of someone.
My neighbor is the best software animator. He is the guy who's hired to create Transformers. As one of the elite animators working in Hollywood today, Patterson specializes in computer-generated imagery, also known as CGI. Routinely hired as a senior animator on major studio feature films with budgets in excess of $100 million, Patterson's understanding and ability to digitally manipulate film is amongst the best in the world. Here's a few examples of films you may know that feature Patterson's CGI work and abilities.
There were many changes. Some you could see, some you couldn't. Hair had started growing in all sorts of places.
So he can take that footage, and he can tell me without a shadow of a fucking doubt if that has been fucked with, if it's fake, or anything else.
Do you know what? I've been waiting for someone to say that, man, because I don't have the ability to do that myself.
I do.
Well, let's do it.
Precious, I'm here. Step away from the window and go back to sleep.
You have a team full of people who are almost near tears saying the whole experience changed their life.
If they're all lying, they have fucking Marlon Brando acting skills. You know, I mean, like, everything you're taught as a team, right? As a ghost hunter, they did everything right. And the reason you're taught these things is because these things, if you film something like that, the protocol will lead you to proof and not evidence. These guys followed the protocol. This is the most definitive ghost evidence and ghost case that will ever be presented. There is nothing else I could think of that even compares to this.
Thanks, sir.
When you see that moment, I looked at my buddy, he looked at me, and we're like, wow, way more than what we expected. It was really intense, and it's gonna blow you away, so it's definitely worth coming out and seeing.
He perfectly said everything that I was thinking and feeling. Dude, I'm gonna fucking call my mom and tell her how awesome this is and how we gotta fucking see this shit together.
I'm a registered nurse and I believe in science. I'm just so happy that tonight we had proof that there is something else out there. I believe what I saw was real. They did everything to try to debunk it. I hope the whole world gets to see this.
What the? What was that?
What? That was a ghost, Debbie! Ah!
Completely looks at the camera.
Gnarly,
and then quickly disappears again.
Oh my god!
That all
Dude!
Oh my god!
This is my birthday gift. Was amazing. This is freaking amazing. This guy, like, ooh, amazing, right?
Yes, as a matter of fact, and I feel very fortunate to have been part of this because I finally see an actual ghost. This is awesome. This is awesome.
I was skeptical at first, and then literally I could feel when my heart started beating again. I loved it and highly recommend it. It was amazing.
Ghosts are real, that film was awesome. Finally like seeing somebody's documenting some real stuff. Guy was relentless on giving them help.
I loved it. It was presented by a very charismatic man.
I trust Chad. First time I saw him when he was on Paranormal State, I said, I like that guy. That's why we're here tonight.
It was going to be a documentary about me debunking him.
That was the original plan.
That was the plan, was to prove that this was a hoax. I mean, I dug into his life, his case. Every road that I went down just led to a dead end.
First thoughts was it was really terrifying. I've never seen anything like that.
This is by far the creepiest thing that we have ever seen.
I've never seen nothing like it before in my life.
Never seen anything like that before on film.
I've never seen anything like that before.
This is not like anything I've seen.
I've never seen anything like that.
Words can't describe what you saw.
I was totally enthralled with the Q&A that was given by Chad.
When it was all said and done, I had chills. It was surreal.
Very surreal. Absolutely amazing. I loved the open questions as well. I got a lot of questions answered. So I would definitely recommend this to anybody.
Mind blowing. If you're not a believer, watch this movie. You soon will be.
I wasn't expecting there to be that clear of an apparition.
Welcome back, everybody, to PARAMERICAN Radio. It is that time once again where we are going to be sucked down the rabbit hole by the purveyor of the hole, the key master, the Gozerian of the rabbit hole. Tinder.
Wait, the what of the rabbit hole?
Gozerian, baby.
Yeah, you've seen Ghostbusters, right?
Yeah, but I don't remember.
Gozar, the Gozerian.
Man.
Come on. That's that millennial shit shining through right now, man.
Saw the new Ghostbusters.
Damn. I'm gonna have to have you watch that so you know what that is.
I've seen Ghostbusters, of course. I just don't remember that part.
You remember when she opens the freezer and sees Gozar, the animal thing, the dog-looking creature?
Oh yeah, that looks like a piece of meat.
No, it's the big bull thing.
It's like a
freezer.
Dog. No.
Yeah, it's like a big dog, and it says Gozar. And Gozar, the Gozerian, is the Zoroastrian god that comes back.
So I'm the freezer dog of the rabbit hole.
Yes. Yeah, it basically means that you are the watchdog of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're the watchdog of it.
I'm the three-headed dog from the Harry Potter.
Anyways, take us down the rabbit hole. Tell us what is going on in the world that is bizarre, mysterious, and or unexplained.
So everyone's familiar with the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Indeed.
And they just recently believe they discovered a hidden chamber in the Great Pyramid. And the last one that was discovered was the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, and something else. And I don't remember specifically what it was, but I remember there was something significant about it. But anyway, that was in the 19th century, the last time. And this new group, the French Heritage Movement, they used this crazy technique of atoms, and there's this thing called muons, and muons, there's a certain amount if there's a space behind it. So basically they use this technique, and they found that near the Queen and King's chamber there's another 30-meter chamber that they believe, what they're hoping for is that it'll help them. It'll help shed light on how the pyramids were created, because maybe like this is the secret chamber that they hide all the secrets of the pyramid in, you know.
Right.
And now what the big discussion is, how do they go about it? Is there an advanced way that they can find out what's in there? Because they don't want to excavate, and I mean they passed laws that they can't.
Sure, right.
They can't do that. So the question is, what next?
You know what's interesting? I recently saw, and forgive me everybody for not knowing the name of the river, but I recently saw a theory that was proposed that most scientists that have looked at it have agreed that this is probably how it was done. Back when the pyramids were first constructed, now remember they were constructed long over time in segments. They were done with different different regimes running different things. But they're way back when it first started, there was a river that was, I want to say it was 80 miles away, that ran right through, and they know this. There was a river that ran through there.
The Jordan River?
That might be it. I mean, but it ran through there, and what they did, and they found proof that they've done this, is they dug out these riverways that went up to the pyramids, where they would put the blocks, once they cut them or whatever, on these pallets that floated, and they would dig out from around the pyramid, because at the bottom of the pyramid there's definitely a water erosion, and they couldn't figure that out why. But this would make sense that they dug out the area around, and as they built it, they would open up and let more water in it, so it would rise up, so they can place the bricks where they need to be from a waterway as it went up. And they could also, that's how it could be watertight. They could like make sure it's that perfect with each thing, because they literally have water there.
That makes sense.
It was pretty crazy.
So, but if it's built up this high, how are they getting?
Well, they would use like a dam system, you know, to lift.
They built on the outside of it and had walls through it, and they would, just carve out the riverway, and they would build a dam system around it, and they would just let the water in, and when they wanted to go up with it, they would just raise the water. So wherever they were putting it in there, it would go down and go, just its own weight would wash it right to the pyramid, where they would receive it at the bottom, and then they would place it using the water. And I don't know all the details as to how they'd get off the pallet or whatever.
Right.
But basically, this system, the way they described it is, it would virtually be easy as shit, because its own weight would drive it. Its own weight is what would place it. And as long as they had the mathematics correct as to where it went, then they could literally line it up to the degree that it was watertight of where it needed to be, and to make it perfect as to how they did it. So. I know I don't. Again, anybody can Google this. Just Google waterway and Google pyramid construction and waterway, and you'll see and this was recently proposed, in which a lot of scientists and guys are like, this actually makes a ton of sense, because they've proven that they did this with the waterways back then and carved out channels and did all this stuff because they had to, because there's no fucking water out there and like in that area. So pretty interesting stuff. But this. I've always thought I've never been to Egypt. It's totally bucket list. I mean, I am dying to go there and see that shit. Fascinated by it. What's always fascinated me the most about the pyramids is not the exterior construction, is all the shit inside.
Right.
The math of that.
Right.
Now you're talking about multiple chambers and how it all works.
Yeah.
I mean, jeez.
Not to mention, just if you look at the amount of time they didn't have a lot of time to spend per block placing. The amount of blocks in the entire each pyramid, but they did the math going, this would be extremely difficult. I mean, even if you went really fast every day for 30 years, it would.
Oh yeah, no, this thing took hundreds of years. Yeah, hundreds of years to construct, because it was constructed at different. You could see on the inside. I don't know if you've ever seen this or not, but like the first layers of it are really like rudimentary. Like there's cement on the inside of it. There's something they use to stick them together and to clog it, and it looks like shit when you see it. And then the next civilization that worked on it, you could see they figured it out better. And now things are a little bit smoother. And when you get towards the top, it's like crystal perfect. So as these generations went on, they figured it out better how to do it.
You ever see their little light devices and how they lit things inside?
Are you talking about the Iraqi battery, the Baghdad battery? Yeah, it's crazy that they actually had batteries back then.
Batteries?
Mm-hmm.
And the oldest known battery is called the Baghdad battery. And they found the first one in Baghdad. And it was, some iron coil or something? It was some...
It's basically... I'm possibly speaking without knowing this, but it's how like it's a chemical reaction in a lightning bug that makes it light up.
Right.
It's similar to that, where it's a chemical thing that creates this power for.
It pressed against something like aluminum or metal or something, and it created a reaction that would light up what it was. So for all technical purposes, they had electric light inside, supposedly, the pyramids, which is pretty crazy. Because that was initially one of my first questions, is what good would it do to have all these chambers on the inside if you have no way to light it all?
Well, torches on the wall, right?
Well, the torches
and
were
they eternally keep torches lit throughout the whole fucking thing?
Burning smoke is the thing, and it's using oxygen. And oxygen was very, especially when you start getting in those tunnels.
Or anything?
No, not in... I mean, the only vent would have been how they got there, right? So if there
I've never been there, but they're huge, right? So to get one thing lit and to stay lit on the inside...
they probably had hundreds of slaves working inside, just lighting...
Just hundreds of dudes all day that just ran and grabbed lights?
I don't know,
that makes sense to
Again,
me,
that's just what I thought.
I'm remembering that it was an issue with oxygen.
I mean, that would make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Well, to me, oxygen and just the fact that, like I said, if you're the guy that has to keep the one lit, like way in the bottom of the
they would only live for 5 years.
Yeah, it's like, what do you do every day? Yeah, I sprint to the top of this fucker, grab a thing, light it, take the next one out, and I turn around and go back and do it again,
Inhale smoke all day.
That's just a time period I would love to have lived in, you know what I mean? Just because they were so gothed out, you know what I mean? And just the whole dog head thing and all the gold and fucking whack, dude. Whack as shit.
Right. You know what's really interesting? I think in the future I would love to create some sort of film, a mashup between the age of, the golden age of Egypt and the golden age of Greece or Rome.
Yeah.
That would be so cool because I've never seen anything that mixes those two together. Not in a corny way, not in a Cowboys versus Aliens way, but something that makes sense.
What if for some reason, right, those two civilizations wound up melding?
Right.
What would that state look
maybe
like?
alternate plane of reality. I don't know.
How does that state look? Right, yeah. Like if Caesar wasn't killed and the Roman Empire expanded into, you know what I mean? Something like that. It'd be crazy to see what would happen.
Right.
So so that's hopefully there's something in there, and it isn't a big letdown that we spent all this time, but...
At some point, they got out. Well, the reason they don't have the records is because that one thing was burned, right?
Alexandria.
Alexandria was burned and all the records were gone.
See, that was the first library.
It was a museum, right?
Well,
library,
people keep saying that, what's his name? Franklin invented the library, the post office, the fire department. But the place in Alexandria, I thought, was the first library.
Well, I know it. All I know is that that's the reason we don't know why the pyramids were built is because it was all burnt.
No, Ben Franklin did not invent the library. I mean, he might have had...
Really?
Well, geez, come on. Think about it. It's
storing... He invented, everything, man. You'd be surprised.
Don't you love when Justin talks down to you in a conversation? Come on, think about it.
Well, I mean, honestly, so the storing of documents was invented by Ben Franklin? That's insane.
You really think that's crazy?
That might have been invented in America the way we do it, you know what I mean? But, well, it's crazy in the sense that, there's been scholars forever. It depends on what you're classifying as a library, you know what I mean? Maybe
Who invented the library?
No, I know he's said to have invented it, but I'm saying I think it's the.
What do you mean no way? It's the first thing that comes up.
You're telling me there was no storage of documents in England.
Come on, think about it.
There was no storage of documents in England.
Steve, tell him think about it.
I literally typed in who invented the library into Google.
No, I've heard that too. I've heard Ben Franklin invented the library, but I think that's
type in who invented the light bulb.
What's that?
It wasn't
Thomas Edison will come up. Not true.
Okay, so he stole the idea.
He's talking about conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
no, I'm not talking about conspiracy. I'm talking about the fact that he patented
I know, but that's the same thing as Columbus discovered America, which he didn't. But the point being is I've heard this too, that Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
But I think that's as we define a library.
Right, exactly.
Right, if you go back and you look the
place in
Roman
Alexandria.
Empire, for example, they had records of all kinds of shit.
Right.
They weren't necessarily stored in a public place that you can go visit and check shit out and read. They were hidden. You know what I mean? They had, know, even with the Catholic Church, the papacy and all that stuff. I mean, there's thousands of years of them, they're falsified, but they're made up records. You can't just go see them.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're held somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think that's talking about from a public place of open information that you can go to.
Oh, check it. Yeah.
It's records and all kinds of shit that's just there, but they're not for public access.
He also he invented the postal service, the fire department, restaurants. I'm kidding about the restaurants.
This is still on the first question. What's the second topic?
Oh, okay. Moving on then.
The next piece.
Just to wrap that up, I think I hope what they do there is they just let someone go through that shit. Because the reason we don't have a lot of those answers is you're right. I've read about there's all kinds of. That is a massive source of income for the Egyptian government. And they're restoring the shit right now. They're going over the outsides and building it back up like how it was. Which historians are always what the fuck are you doing? You're losing history by doing this. You know what I mean? So I wish they would just let a motherfucker go through, let him find out whatever, then do whatever you want with it.
Just recreate.
You know what I mean? Right. Then do whatever you want with it, but let somebody in there. So.
Right.
Anyways, what's the next one? What do you got for us?
Well, the next one is about my favorite show, pretty much, Stranger Things. Okay. Stranger Things, if anyone hasn't seen, is about time displacement, alternate realities, government experiments and secrets. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the show is actually based on true events. There was this book called the Montauk Files, the Montauk Project, and it was written in 1992.
Is this about the island where they made the monsters
Right,
on the island?
right,
the Montauk
right.
Monster?
Right.
Yeah.
But that was based on a true story on a military base in Montauk known as Camp Hero, and what
Montauk Monster.
Right. What people say is that there's been like 100,000 different experiments on people that have to do with like time travel and monsters and just.
And there's hybrids
mind
of animals.
control.
And the reason that they call the Montauk Monster is, for people that don't know, there was animals that washed up on shore close to there that they didn't know what it was. They haven't been able to classify what it is. In each case, they ended up knowing what it was, but there is one specific picture, which I'll post right now. And this is the Montauk Monster. It was something that looks similar to a dog, but not quite. And supposedly, this beast was created there amidst these multiple experiments that they're doing, all kinds of shit. Yeah, pretty crazy shit. So, I'm definitely familiar with the Montauk Monster.
Yeah,
So
it's just interesting because Stranger Things is such a big hit, and a lot of people are like, oh man, this is so great. I bet no one thinks, oh, this might be based on true events because it's just so out there.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting when I read about that.
About like 3 weeks ago, Roy at Coffee told me to start looking into the Montauk Project, and I'd never heard of it before until then.
Who's Roy?
Roy, it's kind of this coffee clutch, we go to in the mornings in the Quad Cities. We wake up and about
Breakfast Club.
7:30 a.m. everybody shows up. There's kind of a group. We all hang out, have coffee, BS, and kind of exchange ideas, kind of like we're doing right now.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, let's give me one more here and let's wrap it up.
All right. Well, today is daylight savings time.
Correct.
Justin, you had a theory about why.
Well, I'd always heard the idea was like used to be in the old days they would actually let school out, or farmers or whatever, because your kids farmed, right? Even if you were going to school or not. So they'd switch the hours so there would be more daylight to do all the farming stuff you need to do, right?
Right.
That's what I'd heard.
Not many people know this, but the state of Massachusetts is... it's such a tough word for me. But they're in the early stages of considering a proposal to stay on daylight saving time year round. It makes sense why. You get more sunlight year round.
So that's the whole reason for doing this is that I just want more sunlight?
Right. Yeah. Literally, that's what it says.
Well, personally, that's what I think I love about daylight savings time. I remember always as a kid, it's like, how awesome it is when you can play until 9 p.m. at night outdoors. It was great,
So what would they do? They would jump ahead?
Yeah, exactly. They would jump an hour ahead into Atlantic time. So you'd have every state in the East, on Eastern time, and then just one state that is in Atlantic. And there's states that are even further out, It's so
wacky.
Right. It's really bizarre.
It would make mailing and delivery really weird.
Right.
It would, like, just that 1 hour would be strange. Television would be different for just them. You know what I mean? It's you have to pipe in a different TV line.
Just for that one.
You know what I mean? For that one state.
Yeah.
Especially it's in like New England, man. It's like there's 20 different states up there sharing the same shit.
Right.
I would be like, Massachusetts, fuck off. You're like you're with everybody else. You know what I mean?
You know what? I bet you the economy there would either skyrocket or just demolish.
Would it have? I could see how it could in timing issues, but why would it affect the economy?
Well, because okay, so maybe TV stations would have to pay more, to have something at this time, or I mean, I could.
You know what it could do? It could add an extra hour of shopping time than they usually don't have, like at the malls and restaurants and things like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I bet that would matter.
Well,
I bet
in general, if having more daylight means more people operation and doing things in general.
So I could see that happening. It would probably help the economy there, the local economy.
Yeah.
It's just weird that they would come up with this, and they'd be like, you know what, we should fucking be on this time all the time. This is better.
Yeah, I know.
And it started that way, right? Like some governor or whoever was talking with his buddy, and he was like, why don't we do it? How do we got to do it? Oh, just offer it in the bill, and you approve it. I'll prove it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's like how shit like that gets done, I don't know. It's interesting. That's really interesting.
Good podcast, man. Going back to the alien thing, I'm telling you, I'll just leave it at this. We're not only going to see disclosure in our lifetime, I truly believe that we are going to see the full-on announcement and introduction in some capacity of alien life form that we will see, identify. You know what I mean? Like, I believe the lid's about ready to be blown off it. I really fucking do.
Yeah, dude, that was an eye-opening. Honestly, a lot of that information, it really makes you stop. You stop and go, wait a minute, man.
Yeah.
Because now it's not only, we're really, just like the JFK thing, when those files comes out, it backs up the actual story of what you believe, right?
Yeah.
We're now actually getting the thing of what would, it's made sense to me for a long time. If we ever actually got to the point where that was just a known commodity now, it's like, wow.
I think it's coming, man. I think it's coming in our lifetime. And I'll go further to say this. I think it's coming before, I would say before 2025. We're supposed to, 2022, Elon just moved Mars up, the Mars mission manned, 2022. At first it was 2030, then went to 2027, now he just moved to 2022.
Well, if the
2020 is his first probe is going there and back.
Huh. If the world isn't ended by then, by Planet X, Nibiru. So that's supposed to be this month.
Oh, but that's happened so many times. Like,
I know,
keep hearing about
I feel like,
it.
every other year.
You know what the thing was? For a while there, I was fucking into Nibiru.
Yeah.
There was just so much shit that made sense about Nibiru, man. That was scary. And there were like NASA whistleblowers that were out on the web going, oh no, it's fucking real and it's coming. And they've been so off about that. I can't even think about it anymore. I mean, the concept of a Planet 12 or Planet X, whatever you want to call it, Nibiru, having an alternate orbit, like totally is real. It occurs in the universe. Like it would.
Yeah.
And what's even weirder is if you look at the mythical, I guess, cycle that it takes.
Yeah.
Every time that would spin around, like technology just blasted forward through the course of human civilization. That's the part that had me hooked.
Well, and this is
ooh.
a big topic too, man. I mean, it's like the 25,000 year period between the Chinese, the Egyptians, the South American Indian tribes.
Right.
They all had this common understanding of what they called the Great Year. You know, it was not just our revolution around the sun. It was actually our whole solar, or the Milky Way galaxy's revolution. And you know, does it go through a asteroid belt that pelts everything and destroys a bunch of stuff? You know, yeah.
You know what's fucking crazy? If it did and the impending doom were coming, not a motherfucker and NASA would let us know. That's the thing. How many times have you seen those news stories where it's like, oh, hey, last night an asteroid just came within 30,000 miles of the Earth. Woo, glad we missed that one. You know, and it's like, glad we missed that one. That would have been cataclysmic to everybody on planet Earth. And we're like, whoo, you know, they'd never tell you. They'd never fucking tell you.
Think about how crazy that would look from the ground if an asteroid comes and you can just see it take up the whole sky. That would be so scary.
It would be amazing.
Because it would be like if you take like a rock underwater and you know and you move it, or like the shark, the shadow of the shark, but just like a shadow of crazy.
It would be crazy. Wow. Well, awesome, man. Thanks, everybody, for listening. When we, on our next podcast, we are going to do it. We are going to tackle, by your request, Flat Earth. Flat Earth. Is it real? Are we on a flat plane? Is that going down? Is the moon and the Earth creations? This is all a grand design. Very interesting topic. I'll let you know. Obviously, you'll know how we all feel about it by the end of the next podcast. This has been a much requested one, so thank you guys for emailing me and asking me to jump into it. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we will see you next time with the Big Flat Earth discussion on Paramerican Radio. Justin and Steve, say goodbye.
Until next time.
Peace.
Peace.
Paramerican Radio.